As the dust settles after the conclusion of Ark Raiders Tech Test 2, there are a few key points about the game I'd like to explore in this video. First, I'll touch on what Ark Raiders already excels at, though I won't linger too long there, since by now you've probably seen the overwhelming wave of positive feedback coming from content creators, members of the gaming press, and the community at large. Next, despite a growing chorus of fans urging Embark Studios to launch the game immediately, there remain several areas that I believe still need a bit of attention, either some fine-tuning or more substantial reworking, and I'll be diving into those. Finally, we'll take a look at the timeline leading to the game's full release later this year and what might be in store between now and then. Before we get started, just a quick note. While this video isn't sponsored by Embark Studios, I am a member of their content creator program. For the sake of transparency, I've tagged this video as a promotion, but I can say what I like here. Alright, let's begin with the good. Ark Raiders without a doubt has a tremendous amount going for it. It's genuinely refreshing to be able to say that during Tech Test 2, we played a shooter that feels well on track for a great launch later this year. It seems that's not something we've been able to say very often in recent times. The game's environments are richly detailed and immersive, complete with stunning night and rain variants. The sound design is simply outstanding, from the eerie mechanical shrieks of the Ark machines to the gunfire you hear ringing out across the landscape and atmospheric background noises. Movement animations with a wide variety of vaulting and ledge grabbing movements are all top tier. The overall gameplay experience of spawning in, picking up a wide variety of loot in a wide variety of locations, some of which require breaching or keys to access, then having a PvPvE adventure with random or not so random encounters, and then extracting, often under time pressure or the threat of players and Ark enemies, is excellent, and that almost seems like a bit of an understatement. And I particularly like how the lore and extraction mechanics are closely tied together. This isn't something that I've actually seen many people talk about, but if you fail to extract, you don't die, despite that being the completely unrealistic go-to for many other extraction shooters. Instead, you're only knocked out by opponents or Ark machines, and it's implied by the Raider distress flare that fires off as you're downed that you're later recovered by other Raiders and dragged back down to Speranza without your gear, except for what you have in your safe pocket. The whole thing has been very well thought out by Embark. The entire experience was so impactful, I actually found myself dreaming about Ark Raiders during the final 2 nights of the playtest. On top of all that, the game performed well for what is essentially a closed beta. I was averaging 90 to 100 frames per second on a rig running a 3080 Ti GPU and an 11th gen i9 CPU, which was fine. There's no doubt in my mind Ark Raiders is on the cusp of greatness. That said, there are still aspects that Embark Studios needs to refine and possibly rethink altogether. Surprisingly, one of my biggest frustrations didn't come from gameplay itself. Like fellow content creator Levelcap, I found the UI experience at the Raider base Speranza to be unnecessarily cumbersome. Navigating between your inventory, the traders, and the workshop felt clunky. Much of this could probably be alleviated by implementing a set of permanent tabs for the main areas of the UI at the top of the screen, letting us simply switch between those areas more fluidly without having to hit the escape key multiple times and wade through nested menus. Even on the final day of the test, I still found myself opening the wrong sections repeatedly. It just didn't feel intuitive. Also, while the game allows you to track crafting items, which is helpful for quickly determining if you should hold on to a loot item or not, I'd love to see indicators that distinguish between items used to upgrade a workbench versus those used purely for crafting gadgets. That kind of visual prioritization would be especially helpful when your backpack is nearly full and you're dropping some loot and keeping some. And speaking of item management, the stash could really benefit from additional sorting categories to make navigating your loot more manageable out of round. Content creator Big Fryer raised a valid point as well. Character and outfit customization currently feels a bit underwhelming. For a premium title with a proposed price tag hovering around $40, I'd expect a wider array of options for outfitting our Raiders. Everything from clothing combinations to facial hair to varied voices for the comms rows. The in-game skill system does provide individuality, which is great, But in a third-person shooter where you're constantly seeing your own character, the current customization feels like it doesn't quite cut the mustard. Also, along the lines of variations, I think it'd be great if Embark could add a few more animations for the Ark machines being destroyed, especially the drones, so they don't always explode in the same fashion. In terms of bugs, I encountered a few minor graphical issues and occasional instances of getting stuck on terrain or objects while navigating. These are the kinds of issues that typically get smoothed out between a closed beta and full release. Weapon balancing might also need some adjustment, but again, that's the standard fare at this stage of development. Now let's dive into some gameplay affecting elements and a few suggestions that might enhance them. One issue that stood out was the round timer. I don't know about you, but our team immediately gauged our plan for the round based on how much time remained in the session. There's a big difference between spawning in at the 30-minute mark versus 25, let alone 20. To lessen the timer's early influence, I'd propose introducing a fog of war mechanic for the first 5 minutes of each round, where the timer is hidden entirely. That uncertainty could add a layer of tension, especially when racing to reach a locked room or high-value area, not knowing if you are early or a little late. It would make the early game feel less formulaic and more suspenseful. And that leads me to Raider hatch keys. As it stands, these keys allow you to use smaller extraction hatches scattered around the map, bypassing the risks of main extraction locations. They're currently priced at just 6,000 coins, which when you're carrying 30,000 in loot, makes them a no-brainer. I found myself bringing one into every raid unless I accidentally forgot to equip it. To increase the stakes, I suggest raising their cost significantly, perhaps in the ballpark of 15,000 to 20,000. That would force players to make a real decision. Is the safety of a Raider hatch worth the price, or should you brave a main extract? In return for that higher price, I'd love to see Raider hatch keys become even more versatile, allowing players to extract not just from the small hatches, but also from the main ones that have already closed. Imagine using a key to call in an extraction elevator at dam or spaceport after it's closed. It would immediately alert others that you're potentially carrying high-value loot. I think that added tension could elevate the gameplay significantly. So those are a few changes I'd personally like to see. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with these suggestions, or do you have your own ideas for improvements? Now let's talk about what's coming next. Looking beyond the game itself, one of the year's biggest marketing stages is right around the corner. Summer Games Fest kicks off on June 6. It would be a missed opportunity for Embark Studios not to showcase Ark Raiders at that event, especially after such a successful tech test and the current hype around the game. With Tech Test 2 being a closed playtest, the logical next step would be an open playtest, and Summer Games Fest seems like the perfect venue to announce it. Imagine this. A new trailer drops in early June, announcing an open playtest for late June or July. That would give Embark at least a couple of months to incorporate feedback and polish the game before that open playtest. Given how solid the current build already is, that timeline feels entirely realistic. And maybe, just maybe, we get a release date announcement at Summer Games Fest 2. Assuming one more open test and then a month or two for final tweaks, I think we're looking at an August release at the absolute earliest, but September or later seems more likely. Bungie's own extraction shooter Marathon is scheduled for September 23. Considering how promising Ark Raiders looks compared to Marathon, which appears to still need a significant amount of development, it wouldn't surprise me if Embark Studios either tries to beat Bungie to market or even boldly chooses the same release date. That would be a major statement not just for Ark Raiders, but potentially for Embark Studios' ambitions in the industry. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. A big thank you to the members of my channel for their ongoing support, and of course to Embark Studios for including me in their content creator program. Both are greatly appreciated. Do the usual YouTube business if you want to see more videos from me from now on. Give a like or comment as you see fit, and enjoy the rest of your day. Kia kaha. Stay strong.
Everybody knows the world ain't right. Down on your knees, get up and fight.